Donald Trump was a media star until he decided to run for president. Then he became a media superstar, but not in the way he might have hoped. They started demonizing him relentlessly for years and years and years. This is from Pew Research. And as you can see, they give their assessment of whether they think news coverage of Donald Trump was positive or negative, or neutral, which is hard to imagine in this day and age, isn't it? But as you can see from this chart, only 11%, in their view, was a positive assessment of Donald Trump. That is staggering. That is a staggering media landscape for Trump to enter into and win. And as you can see from the 2024 election, Trump's media coverage did not get any better. In 2024, he's on exactly the same sorts of figures. 89% negative, so now we're down to only 11% either positive or neutral. Because let's be fair, at this point, there probably isn't much neutral on Donald Trump. And Kamala Harris was much on the same sort of result in the positive as Hillary Clinton was back in 2016, and Joe Biden was in 2020. She was to become their darling, plucked out of obscurity, where she dropped off the map in 2020 or 2019 on 5% of the vote. No one thought anything of her, and suddenly, boom, she's the vice president. Suddenly, boom, she's the candidate. Suddenly, boom, Donald Trump has crushed her. It was all very inauthentic, and everyone knew that it was inauthentic. Everyone knew that this wasn't real. Her entire campaign was a mirage. It was a media halo that surrounded her like a golden glowing light without any substance. There was nothing to it, and everyone knew it. And in the meantime, what Trump had done in 2020 and until 2024 is campaign very solidly. And he'd built himself a superb coalition of people who were basically crusaders. People who basically knew, we have to win this or America is over. Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, loads and loads of people who I guess you could say are in Trump world, parts of the Republican establishment, and eventually even Joe Rogan. Like, this was a really broad campaign of people who are like, right, the left is actually as crazy as that Sargon guy was saying. We have to stop them. They have to be defeated. This has to be the coalition that wins. And when they did, massively, bigly, as one famous president may have said. Donald Trump came in at 312 at the end. He captured the Senate. He captured the House. He already had the Supreme Court. And he also got the popular vote. There is literally nothing else for him to win. Like Alexander, he will weep at the end of the world, for there are no more worlds to conquer. Personally, I think it's entirely likely that Donald Trump will actually try and enact as much of his campaign pledges as possible, because I think he sat in the wilderness for 4 years. Remember, he was deplatformed from social media. He was basically blacklisted from everything. They engaged in unprecedented amounts of lawfare, locked up loads of his supporters, such as Steve Bannon and a couple of others whose names escape me off the top of my head. And this is just crazy. This is open warfare by the US government, occupied by the Democrats, against not only just the former president, but essentially about half the country. Well, I suppose if the vote goes for it, more than half the country. So I think that when Donald Trump gets back in power, he is going to use it. Trump has actually laid out loads of reforms that he wants to do to the US system. And if you'd like to hear us discussing them, you can follow the link in the description. Sign up to loadseaters.com for £5 a month, because of course this channel is demonetized, and go and watch our American election coverage. This was a fantastic nearly two hour debate or discussion about what happened, what we think was the cause of all of this, and of course what we think Trump will do next, examining line by line exactly what Trump had put out to say, look, I'm coming for the deep state, I'm coming for the sort of integrated state, the mass bureaucracy, I'm coming for social media censorship, I'm coming for academia, I'm coming for the border, I'm coming for it all. Now, whether he delivers is a different issue, but like I said in this discussion, it seems to me that Donald Trump has crusaders around him, people who are on a mission, and who have been on the mission that they're on for quite a few years now, and finally are going to get into a position where they can actually do something about the problem. And I think do something about the problem, they will. But one problem I think they won't have to deal with is the mainstream media, because it looks like Donald Trump himself has destroyed them. Now, they had already destroyed their credibility by the end of 2019. By the time that Donald Trump left office in the beginning of 2020, mainstream media's credibility was in tatters. The graphs that you can find of media trust going down amongst normal people and Republicans and going up amongst Democrats are manifest and many, and you can find them all over the internet. But we have now, from yesterday, a series of statistics that Mediaite obtained from mainstream media, viewing figures, and if I were in the mainstream media, I'd be like, guys, do we even have jobs? They say that MSNBC averaged only 596,000 viewers for the day, while CNN got 419,000. That's really bad. For 1 hour, that wouldn't be great. For a consistent primetime slot, that'd be terrible. But for the day, that is good news if you support Trump. There's a decline of 23% for MSNBC and 40% for CNN year over year. But their primetime numbers, as we're told here, are even more concerning. CNN saw a 30% decline and MSNBC 54% down. Good God. Now, there's a question that lingers over this, which is, why are people tuning out? Now, I don't have any data on that. I don't have any surveys or professions on that. All I can suggest is perhaps after 8 years now of solidly being lied to every day to confirm a series of biases that turned out to have no basis in reality and eventually got them completely crushed, maybe, just maybe, the libs are like, you know what? I've just had enough. I've just had enough being addicted to the doom cycle of CNN and MSNBC telling me that the walls are closing in, everything's going to get me if Donald Trump wins, and now he's bloody won. It's too much. It's too stressful for me. I'm logging off. Maybe, just maybe. Maybe a bunch of people have been persuaded. Maybe they're like, yeah, you know what? I think these guys are full of shit. Actually, I think Donald Trump was making some good points. I think, actually, I'm just not going to watch them. Who knows? And by comparison, Fox actually increased its views, as you can see here, a 60% increase from 2023. So maybe people are actually swinging to the right. Maybe they're actually looking at the results of the election and saying, well, these guys predicted one thing, these guys predicted another thing, and these guys on the left were totally wrong, so I'm going to drop them and just watch the guys on the right who weren't totally wrong. Who knows? Like I said, I don't have any privileged information on that. I can only make an educated guess. But this was brilliant from CNN. Trump's return to power raises serious questions about the media's credibility from Brian Stelter, one of the main people who created this kind of media environment. Well, yeah, I suppose it does, Brian. I suppose that's fair, that's true. Trump's return to power does raise those serious questions. But really, it's more about the way that you dealt with Trump, right? If you dealt with Trump and said, well, look, we don't agree with him, but here's what he said, here's what he didn't say, here are what the facts appear to be, and broadly speaking, what Trump is saying converges with them, because generally that's how it works. There's something broadly true about what Trump has said, but maybe a bit more fuzzy on the details. But you didn't do that. You went into full campaigning mode. You were opposition to him. And you were the mouthpiece of the Democratic Party. Do you remember on Hillary Clinton's plane with the media leaning in? Oh, we're thrilled to see Hillary Clinton. You were their lapdogs, and you did nothing to challenge them. You did everything you could to try and defeat Trump, and it became patently obvious just how biased you were. In fact, it was so obvious, even Snopes had to years afterwards come out and be like, look, you've got to stop parroting the very fine people on both sides hoax, because it's a hoax. Donald Trump did not say this, but all of you reported it like that. All of you said, look, Donald Trump is saying these terrible, terrible people are very fine people. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. Everyone can watch the video. Elon watched the video. Joe Rogan watched the video. Millions of people saw them watch the video. And eventually Snopes were like, yeah, we watched the video too. And, it took us 7 years to finally report this honestly. But I mean, better late than never, right? Better late than never. I'm glad that eventually you got to the point where you're like, okay, yeah, even Snopes can't continue lying about this. And yet, where's the mea culpa from the media? Crazy. Anyway, link will be in the description. Go and watch the roundtable. It's really, really good. You might be surprised to see a video on this channel, but who knows what will happen in the future. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you next time.